Older road.
And like,
Look at this house or something.
yeah, Rock, no, on your road, like on Tango.
Yeah, with the gun.
Excuse me 1 second, just hold your horses here, I'll be right back. Yes, sir.
I will make them.
No, no, just want to, I'd be up front for a little.
Did you do this one? Oh, yeah, you did it. Okay.
You said just wait to see what happens. Like you said.
Moose is here. This, he's front. So this is Charles Street. This region here is all Charles Street. This here was F Street, and this here was 8th Street. Correct. That's a lot like bullets, like you would do for smoothies and what have you. They'll use those grinders, coffee grinders.
Because he was taking pictures of names. I don't know if he got those.
So, and you can see some of the stamps there. Some of the stamps are here. Full racks.
Yeah, he in the suit.
Yes, and you can see that there's also some money. Most important is there's money there, money over here, money over here.
Oh, my God, in the suit.
They've already been provided. They're gonna, yeah, I'll tell you. No, we don't have. That's what I said, we don't have to, we did last time. We're already getting questions about why. Right. Yes. Before that becomes an issue. Okay. How many total slides there?
It is about 10.
Okay.
No, so all the stuff that's moving forward isn't in there. All the umbrellas, of course, all of them, what have you. So we're good. Correct. Of course, yeah, this correct. Yeah, so correct. So, yeah.
Just so you know, Dave Troyer called me. He is interested. Of course, as soon as she found out. But they usually, within the last 3 weeks, they've called us twice. I know. DOJ wants to. Yeah, these are important. I'm gonna grab my.
Am I good?
Yeah. Can you get proof? Yep, I'm gonna grab my report.
Sir, must do that.
Let's do it. Okay. All right.
I'm good though?
So
we think they're coming, or do we not know? Yeah, I know. These things usually go for about 60K.
For a kilo, but cocaine's on the so a kilo of fentanyl. That's what you could maybe. TV time. Yeah.
Buddy. All right, is everybody ready? You know what? I have a thought. All right, we all know who's getting all the attention here. Ready? Good night. Good Attorney's office, surrounded by all of these law enforcement officers who have done so much to bring about, are here, and we are together against 5 defendants for their roles: fentanyl, dismantled by the police officers, detectives, and prosecutors in the Philadelphia, our dangerous drug offender unit, in collaboration at the DEA, which has been for years, and with the support of the police department. Have the following names: Yeah, Duarte, 49. Hernandez, date of birth February 20. Manuel, 7/29/1974. Fermin, 21, and Jose, 4/4. To acknowledge some of the people who are here, have in attendance 4 members of City Council. Interest to them. However, City Council are pretty all-consuming, so depending on their timing, they may make it or they may not. There's certainly who is the special agent in charge of the DEA. We have Keith Hart, an assistant special agent. Joseph Frederick Storff, IDT, and for is the trafficking area. Kelly III, Deputy Commissioner of the Philadelphia Police, to these instrumental in carrying out these busts. From the Ben Salem, who looks like he's doing just fine, is here and will be speaking. He is the chief of the DAO's dangerous drug of the DAO's dangerous drug of the DDOU is here. Also of the DDOU, also from the DDOU, Lee, lieutenant, who is with the dangerous chief of our here, for reasons that should be pretty obvious about the overlap, gun violence, this is pretty high level because of the incredible forensic tools, investigative work that Bill Fritzy and all agents do in collaboration with our drug offender unit in tirelessly to take narcotic operation or significant adult more dangerous that gets sold and they'll learn during part of what was confiscated in these raids included and they're used for the purpose of marketing for different ones should indicate to you how many different were being distributed through the these quantities of this is of potential substances. Violence in Philadelphia remains a very top priority. Certainly, large quantities of money associated with it. Put it to settle disputes that cannot be settled in the courts of law. Lower Northeast Division Jersey. This announcement is just one step. There's a lot we're not going to, but what we is to follow leads far and wide. This investigation will take us both state that this is high-level stuff. This is serious stuff. That the owners, the residents who live near this kind of activity, fear and less concern for what it is happening around. Comfort. All right. Jesus remind one homicide at this point. When you talk about wild people dying, victims that we have. So this is into that. Go through with a couple of investigative steps that occurred. The first speaker will be ADA Paul Riddell, the chief the Steve Gurman of DDOU will talk more about the charges of the case. He is present, although I think he'll mostly be standing with his colleagues if the course, DEA but he will be here and certainly available in case I say the wrong thing. We have Deputy Director Joseph Fredericksdorf of Hyde Task Force handling important business, and he's now support DDOU as this investigation goes. Colleagues and friends deeply concerned, and they will be speaking as well. Order.
And first and foremost, we would like to get our thank you collaboration looks like. We took street yesterday to the length of the investigation going on, and one amount of fentanyl that was taken off represents about over half represents it or the surrounding area. So first, hats off to personally thank the Lieutenant Kenyatta Lee was here, Sergeant group up in good times. They've worked all through over COVID with the case we it is success of this unit. I want to thank without which we couldn't do these kind of cases. I want to thank the Philadelphia Police Department who was enabling us to do our takedown with our warrants. Joseph Frederick the chief and this is what makes it. I'd like to thank my you've heard that the government has taken the reins on this investigation. We also have a listening McNamara and what I just want is a joint with what I would like to acknowledge is that the fact that what you heard in other jurisdictions directly related to the stamps we found. Also want to point out to the fact all 30 corners, and we were able to track back some of those and where those are going and how that impacts drug dealing organizations throughout. I will turn this. So.
That goes back the better part of to something that agencies, we were able to take that information from things that we had already. To identify the main players in this organization. This is an organization on the corners. They distribute to the people who end up to the neighborhoods, East Philly, distributing through the course of the investigation that the distribution went through Philadelphia out to New Jersey, and as you'll see, significantly out to Pittsburgh. When we identified major players, we did execute search warrants prior to yesterday. As you see on the slides here, we did, on the 1031 slide, on Halloween, we served search warrants after a controlled buy of approximately 1 kilo. We did search that individual's residence in the 15th district. We found a packaging mill inside the basement. We did find a ghost gun and a 5.7 caliber handgun hidden in the ceiling. We found a table packaging materials and all of the necessary equipment to mix the cut materials with the fentanyl. You see the plates, the heat lamps, and all of the attendant paraphernalia. Next slide. So on in December of 2024, we did identify another major player in the organization, and were able to intercept. What you see there is basically a green and gray small-sized rolling suitcase that was being transported via a Greyhound bus out to Pittsburgh. Our partner agencies and DEA task force in Pittsburgh and did intercept approximately 10 kilos, and you see it in the bricks. Those are the individual packages wrapped in essentially a paper envelope, and that's what the management type people would be handing out to the street workers for sale out there. That takes us to our search warrants today, where Enrique Munoz Hernandez was identified as a manager of packaging mills or houses. You see pictures here. We see the table with all the attendant and equipment for mixing the fentanyl with the other chemicals and packaging into the individual bags. On these slides, we can see on the left the individual blue glassine packets that are part of the individual dosage packaging. You can see that those small square boxes, those are about the size of your phone or so. So we're talking about thousands of bags, and they were equipped to package that much fentanyl in the course of their activities. On the right, I want to point out, hanging on the door, an industrial respirator. We did receive information through this investigation that the table workers were at times subject to the chemical effects of fentanyl mixing, and you see some of the precautions that they take inside of those activities. Here you have the list of individuals who were arrested. I believe 4 out of the 5 have already been processed and seen the bail magistrate. One may see the bail magistrate by the time that we are done with this bail for everyone who's seen the $2 million, which was the Commonwealth's request in this case. And the list of charges, possession with intent to distribute is going to be the lead charge. We're also charging a corrupt organization due to the nature of the ongoing conspiracy. And here you see a slide with some of the stamps that are recovered. As Paul was saying, these go to individual crews, blocks, corners. So the point of this is that this is a significant disruption to multiple areas and beyond. And this is the final tally of all of the things that were recovered: drugs, cash, paraphernalia, and
Can you go through
use.
some
Yeah.
details so I can understand?
Absolutely. So if you turn your attention to this green bag, you'll see the individual small plastic packets. Those are the things that the drug dealers are going to have in their pockets when they're actually selling to people out on the corners. Yep. I'm so sorry. Yes.
I'll point it out quick.
All right. So as I was saying, the green packets are going to be the bundles of the individual packets, 10, 13 at a time. That's what you find in the drug dealers' pockets that they're selling from. The paper rectangles are the larger racks, and when they're being distributed out to the managers of the blocks, that's what they're going to be out from the types of dealers that we're talking about today. If you look to the top, coffee grinders, spice grinders, and those are going to be used for mixing the fentanyl and all of the other chemicals, including xylazine, trank dope, to expand the supply into something that's more economically viable. Towards the very bottom, you see black. Those are some of the stamps that were recovered, and you also see them on the top left table there, right there in the middle, exactly, as well as on the far left, you see the bulk cash. Yeah. All right.
Deputy Director. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name's Joe Frederick, of the drug trafficking area. We're a federal of local, state, and federal law enforcement, as well as throughout Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware. And we provide collaboration for partners, services, and prosecution. We are process that effectively works. There's hundreds of thousands of potentially deadly units. It's a product that's particularly harmful that doctors in our ER and treatment rooms have a hard time dealing with. That.
Another comment or two, and then we will go to Q&A. Oh, I'm sorry, Bill Fritzy. Yes, sir.
There's no guns in this, so that's why they forgot. I'm here to talk about collaboration and what that means with it. We really we intend nature and be able to send that your unit, letting them what's going to continue here in the lab this data, but also analyze made grants that that were acquired by the city that analyzed information. The police department as well to and see what else we can find, that what other criminal activity these individuals are engaged in. Be asking him for any as well, so that we can do what we can do on it, working with the police department activity. Thank you.
All right, just a couple of comments, and then we'll go to. I'm sure, and certainly if I miss, that's correct. You know, we thought we had it bad with heroin. Bad when people were buying heroin mixed with it necessarily just start to adulterate heroin. Quickly made it. Had people who had been addicted to cocaine or crack for 25 years lying dead on the street because fentanyl had been put into their crack. And what they had managed with their addiction for a period of time, they couldn't manage anymore. And they were killed. We saw fentanyl starting to make its way into phony pharmaceuticals, pill presses, that were making things that looked like other drugs, but actually fentanyl was in it. And then, to make things even worse, because the amount of fentanyl it takes to kill you is so minute, and the people mixing it are not live or die, then we started to see other substances, some of which were mentioned by HIDTA Director Fredericksdorf, making their way into it. Well, these kilos, which sell for something like $70,000 a piece, wholesale, and we're talking 16 of them, so do the math, you're up to maybe $1.1 million wholesale, and a much, much higher value on the street when they're sold in individual packages. These kilos are full of other substances. What that means, and I say this based upon a very long conversation with experts in the field and an addiction doctor and medical doctors, what that means is that when someone comes in overdosing off of this kind of a substance to an emergency ward in Philadelphia where you have access to ICU, those medical doctors may not be able to handle it. That's how bad it is. They don't even know what is is in the body, and not all of them are going to make it out even in an emergency room environment with that is how dangerous. So obviously I'm delighted, and I think every Philadelphian and a lot of people in Jersey, the people in the Commonwealth, that has been taken off the street. Make no mistake, they'll be selling drugs as we stand here, and they'll be selling them. And this is a reflection of some really excellent work that is impactful, and hopefully will have an impact. All right. There's a whole row of experts behind me. Question that they may or may not want to answer, I will shuttle back and forth to see if they'd like to come forward. Obligation to answer any questions, especially here. CBS, no questions?
Human question. For a non-drug user, when you talk about fentanyl, seeking out fentanyl, or is the fentanyl being put into things to mask for what the drug actually is?
Someone would like to answer that.
Yeah, I can take it. Have Joe. In all our careers, heroin was one product line, so to speak, just heroin. It's an agricultural growth cycle, and guys were committed to heroin. Later on in our careers, it's a synthetic drug. But what's unique about fentanyl is it combines with a lot of other as the fentanyl can be pressed into pills. So you have things called like M30s, or they used to call them pink footballs, or Xanax, or materials like that. Someone may go out seeking Xanax, but actually getting a knockoff that's fentanyl laced. And then when you get that fentanyl is an opiate, and then now you another source. So now you're seeking more fentanyl. So to answer your question is yes, people seeking another type of drug could end up with fentanyl. That's where the one pill can kill ideology comes from. Some kid at college, a non-drug user, goes to a party one night, takes something, he thinks it's Adderall to stay awake all night, but he ends up getting a deadly dose because these guys aren't pharmacologists. So the answer to your question is both. They seek out one thing, but they may end up with something else entirely.
Chris Edmondson, 6ABC. Any questions? James Friedman, any questions?
Yes. You spoke of all these ingredients. Is this something that Narcan can help?
Narcan interrupts Narcan to a lot of places throughout the region to prevent the kinds of deaths that we're talking about. We supply it all over Philadelphia, and other people supply it too. Narcan is an opioid receptor inhibitor, so yes, it does help, but it's with one of the mixes. So if there's 4 things in a mix, it might help the opioid receptors. So more often than not, we tell people use the Narcan, and we find it effective.
Just to follow up.
Yeah.
Is this something that could, if these drug mixtures that they're making and designing, is this something that Narcan will eventually not be able to handle?
To date, it has been able to handle it. We're always behind science. Science will someday find a way to break the addictive cycle. Until that happens, we have to rely on these folks to stop the supply line. And we also do, all of us here do prevention and treatment. Narcan.
Channel 29 Fox.
Yeah, just have 2 questions for you. One, just want to make sure, in regards to, is it in total over the I believe you guys said it was a 2-year investigation, was it nearly 30 kilos, or can you just talk about it in regards to the amounts? I just want to make sure I have that.
My understanding is, as there were some earlier busts. One of them involved a suitcase and a Greyhound bus. I think we saw that slide. And another one involved first were found during a raid that followed it. If I heard all that correctly, I think that amounted to a total of. Apart from that, there was on the 8th of April, yesterday, a raid that involved another total of about 16 kilos. Putting all that together, you're close to approximately 32 kilos. However, let's make sure that gets corrected here, and then we'll go to your second question. Is that correct?
That is correct.
You got it?
So it's fair to say nearly 30 kilos in the entire investigation?
32, yeah.
Or 32, okay, fair enough. And then just the last thing, in regards to, I know you're mentioning in regards to the folks that you guys have arrested in charge. These are not your street level dealers, these are the big players. If you could talk about the importance of the timely factor, of the amount of time it takes to be able to get these big boys and not necessarily, you know, the street level.
I'm going to defer to my colleagues here to see if someone would like to comment on that. Do you want to talk about the timing?
Certainly.
That's involved?
You know, I think we've heard this before. People want a quick reaction for a crime and want it stopped immediately. And sometimes in order to get into the chain and get the networks and figure them out, it does take time. So constantly what's going on, and I've worked with the Philadelphia Police Department, DEA, they're making purchases, they're making undercover buys, and we do take those cases as part of the Philadelphia DA's office. That continues. We expanded the dangerous drug offender unit. I have plenty of people who take those cases on a daily basis. But at the same time, we do these parallel investigations and dump that information into larger investigations. As you heard Idiot Fritzy talk about how we can put these cases together, we will be sharing information to figure out what's going on, because you have different levels of this networks, just like you have in the economy. And these people are definitely managers. These are the people who run the show. But we can go further and higher than that, and we can go below them also, but we have to do it all together, because just taking out one facet doesn't really disrupt these networks.
Hey, good afternoon. If I could just first off, I just want to thank the DA's office and the Dangerous Drug Offender, our best partners in this city for high-level investigations. And what they bring to the table is a wealth of experience in this area, and they're able to identify the entire network in this area. And then what that helps me to do is I can take their information, track it back to the source cities, even to the cartels themselves in Mexico, where all the fentanyl is being manufactured and poured into this country in record amounts. And so through their starting this case, and again, sometimes it does take a little longer because we're getting the pieces in place where I'm calling our offices at the border, and they're doing parallel investigations into the organizations from their areas, and then, as I said, all the way into the Mexican cartel. So it's just I just really want to commend them because, right, and they see what's going to impact the entire country, not this area. Obviously, they're having a significant impact. Their efforts and they're having a great impact. So, thank you.
Thank you. Now, I will ask the media to do me a favor. Don't spin your cameras around. And this is the reason. There are a lot of people in law enforcement whose faces don't need to be on camera because they're actively involved in undercover work or they're making buys directly. There's a whole team, however, for the people viewing your media, there's a whole team who are not on this side of the camera, they're on that side of the camera because this is the incredibly important work that they do. Those are the risks that they take, and those are their, we are speaking of their accomplishments. So I want to give them credit, even though we're not going to put their faces on camera today. All right, let me see. Mr. Payne, we completed your questions, right? Yes, sir. Sherry Stone, Philadelphia Tribune. Or Abdul Suleiman? Nothing? Yes, sir. Argenis Figueroa, 65 Univision. Do you have any questions, sir?
Thank you. Yes, I have a question. So, first for you, I would like to know, usually the information to start the investigation comes from the community. So at the same time, the community feel afraid to report drug dealers in their drugs. So, how the community can be part of this fight against the drug dealers?
Okay, and would you like that answered in English or in Spanish? Spanish if we can. All right, let me huddle up for a moment, and then I'll come back. What's the best way for the community to be involved? What phone number should they call? What should they say? You want to tell me?
PPD is
Sure.
I would say that one of the jobs that we task our young officers with is going out there and build relationships with the community.
Un momento. Que el trabajo de los policías para grabar la información. Yes, sir.
And part of the relationships with the community, and form relationships with the people out there. That's
la comunidad.
And with that, help a feeling of trust, that they can trust the officers. Women and people in there to build that connection.
Okay, hold on a second. La comunidad cada día para mejorar esa situación.
Safer. They always have the opportunity to go in to the
También pueden ir al distrito o los otros en el distrito, es decir.
And everyone that would be involved in this, you know, and that safe and protected to us.
Podrán esa información en confianza, que no van a comunicar con la comunidad
And we also calls into, and Deputy Director Fredericksdorf worked in narcotics for a long time. The week going up on these anonymous information is brought in. Jobs emanates from a lot of times.
Y también